All right, there we go. Recording and we are live. Say something, B.
Um, this is still trying to play catch up. So I just finished eating dinner. Just came back from having a cigar and a little bit of rum. So I'm like, all over the place.
What'd you have for dinner?
A rib, pork chop, some cold slaw, and some corn.
Doesn't sound too healthy.
You said it doesn't sound too healthy?
It sounds fattening.
It was delicious. We fired up the grill, had a nice little pork chop and rib, and probably the unhealthiest thing was the cold slaw because it's made with Miracle Whip, but a little fat, man. You need fat in your diet. I've got enough fat on my body, but I mean, whatever.
Does sound delicious. Excellent. So, what do we got planned for today? Take it away, B.
So, today's topic is on leadership. And later on, we're going to specify a thing that you can do. It's called the man in the mirror test. So, to start it off, welcome to the Order of Pillars Roundtable. My name's Ricardo. I'm here with my brother Nick, and we also have Heron. Heron, say hello. Hello?
Oi, hello, Gits.
Heron is one of our community members and a good friend of mine that I've known for many, many years. If you don't know what the Roundtable is, it's basically where we sit down and we talk about particular subjects. The pillars in particular in our community, the Order of Pillars, and they consist of 7 different pillars. I'm not going to touch on all of them, but today's topic is in particular about leadership, how to identify what a leader is, how to become a better leader, how to lead ourselves, and in that leading our families, our loved ones, and our communities. So from there, you have that up already. So like it says, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anybody. So the first thing about leadership, and everybody on this call tonight is a leader. My brother owns his own company, or his own business. He's an English teacher. He has been doing that for many years. He's owned his own company. I am a high-level manager, mid-level. Let's say mid-level manager. And I've been doing that for many years. I've owned my own business. Heron is also a manager. He's been doing that for a while. And we all have particular takes on leadership. And I think tonight's going to be an interesting conversation with all of our different views on leadership and how it entails.
What did you say? Because you mentioned like our roles and what we work in. So, would you equate leadership with being a boss? Is it the same thing?
Yes and no. And I've noticed that I say that a lot.
You do.
The nuance in everything. So, yes, as a supervisor, a manager, a business owner, whatever else, you're a leader. Now, are you a good leader? That's where I think the distinction comes in. Obviously, there are bosses and there are leaders. Bosses are people who tell other people what to do. They try to control situations and basically, at the end of the day, are looking out for themselves and making themselves look in the best possible light to their higher ups and everybody around them. A leader is, in my opinion, something that's completely different. It's not just a title. It's something that you set an example. So before, like it says, before you can lead yourself, you have to be able to lead, or rather, before you can lead others, you're going to have to lead yourself. You have to lead by example and do those tasks that you ask other people to do. And in doing those, you set an example of how they're supposed to do it, why they're supposed to do it, and show that it's not just something that you're asking them to do. It's something that you do yourself, will continue to do, and will help them to do better in every day, right? It's being a leader even if nobody is watching, basically.
All right, now to play devil's advocate here, why would I want to be a leader?
Well, actually, before I go on, Heron, I'm curious
Yeah.
on your take on what a leader is and why would somebody want to be a leader?
Okay. Well, I appreciate you asking. To me, what a leader is someone who others can follow by example. Um, why would you want to be a leader? Well, I would probably say that you would want to be a leader so that way you no longer have to follow. Like, have you ever followed someone you thought was, leading you the right way only to find out, they didn't know the way? And it's like, well, wait a second. Like maybe had we listened to my idea and thought of a better plan, we could have, gone through a little bit better. Um, I would say for me, it happened when, like, I did have a bad manager, and I'm like, I'm not supposed to be doing better than you, and you're getting paid more than me. So that's why I was like, it'd be more beneficial for me to actually be my own leader rather than, you know, following somebody else. So, and, there are different leadership styles as well. So, you know, but that's kind of what I would say.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Um, the why you would want to be a leader, I would say, so whether you think of yourself as a leader or not, we're all leaders, right? We lead ourselves. So whether you're leading yourself poorly or well is really what the distinction here is, right? If you choose not to wake up when your alarm goes off, to not get up, brush your teeth, have a good routine, go to work on time, set money aside to save, et cetera, you're being a poor leader. And in that, your life becomes worse, right? Your surroundings become worse because you're making poor choices. Further from that, if you get into a role of leadership in a company or in a family or whatever else, now your responsibilities are much higher because your job is to lead them, as Heron said very well. Um, your job is to be a good leader, right? To do better work than those around you and show that this is the best example that I can possibly give and make your life easier and try to explain why, right? Me as a manager and have been for, like I said, many years, I'm a very big proponent on not just explaining how, but the why. So if you explain to somebody why they're doing something, they can understand the process, why the steps are in place, and then hopefully take more accountability for it, as opposed to just telling somebody, hey, go ahead and put that on the shelf. And they don't know why, they don't understand the bigger meaning behind anything else. So that's kind of where I would sum it up there.
All right, so it's not a title. You don't think
No.
to be a leader is not just a title?
No.
All right.
No. So, because when you think about it, you were a leader. Every one of us has the capacity to be a leader. You were a leader before you were even born. You were the first sperm to the egg.
That is nasty.
But in that leader, you're turning around and going, ha!
All right, so not a title, which brings us to the next slide here. Sorry, I had a stick bush in there. So leadership isn't titles, so it's responsibility.
Yep.
What would you say are the main responsibilities of a leader? I'm sure there are many, but what's the first thing that comes to your head?
So, real quick, interesting that you put up George Bush. He is an interesting character. For anybody who doesn't know much about George Bush, he was one of our presidents, and he was actually the president during the 9/11 attack. And he is exemplary on good leadership and bad leadership in different points in his administrations. So during the 9/11 attacks, if you don't know what the 9/11 attack is, I don't know where you've been living, but one of the biggest terrorist attacks that happened in the U.S. It brought down the two World Trade Centers, and hit a few other things I can get
Supposedly,
into.
allegedly.
No, that's not alleged. They definitely have. I actually have somewhere over there the 9/11 report. Anyways, I'm not going to get into that conspiracy theory. I have my regular hat on, not my tinfoil one. But when we were attacked, within hours of the attack, Bush did a great job being a leader because he projected calm resolve and helped unify this country during a very chaotic time. He actually gave a very good speech at the ground zero in the rubble when everything was still frigging steaming. And he said something along the lines of, I can hear you, the rest of the world hear you, and it really helped unify and rally a grieving nation. After that, to show um, his strong leadership skills, his approval rate got to, I think it was in the 90%, which is ridiculous. He built international coalitions, which I disagree with, but he actually formed the Department of Homeland Security at that time, helping to restore national confidence and again, just trying to help unify everything. He also highly screwed up in the Iraq War, which again shows the failure in his presidencies. He entered under false pretenses of weapons of mass destructions. It had flawed intelligence, allegedly. You know, it went on for many years, cost thousands of lives. Domestically, it caused a lot of disunity, right, in the war and in everything else. So he's an interesting character. If you ever get a chance, I know people either right off rip go, "Oh, he's the best," or he's the worst, but there's nuance in everything. Now, what is the responsibility of a leader? That's an interesting question. I would actually say the responsibility of a leader is, as I said, setting the example, unifying the people, and so it would be setting an example, having accountability, right? Accountability to yourself and to others, and doing it consistently. I would say those are the key ones to make a good leader. Anybody?
Well, you always want to lead by example as well. Like that's all I had. I'm sorry.
I was like in suspense here. What is he?
Yeah, right now I was like,
all right, yeah. So obviously, lead by example. I would say, yeah. But I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind is putting others above yourself. 'Cause that's
Right.
what a leader has to do. How many you guys are in managerial roles, so I'm sure you've had to work late nights, overtime, whatever, weekends where most other people don't have to, and you have to do it because you're the leader. You sacrifice your time with your family, your free time, and maybe others don't have to, but you do. And in order for others not to have to do that, or in my case, I don't know, teaching. I have to teach all crazy hours, even if I don't want to, because I put the student on top of above what I want. I would say maybe like a leader that's sacrificing yourself to a degree, for others. I think many people respect that. Now, what other responsibility would you say that a leader might need, maybe not just have, but what you need. In the previous slide, it says you have to lead yourself. So, what would you need to lead yourself with?
Um,
And go ahead.
Go ahead, Aaron. You had anything?
I was just gonna say integrity.
Can you break
Yeah.
that down?
Can I break integrity down?
Yeah.
Doing what's right for the right reasons. Like staying true to, again, being accountable and making sure you're doing what you feel is right. And I get right is subjective because, what's right for you may not be right for the next person or even the company you're working for. But it's a tough one.
No, I think you were on a very good point. It's doing what's right. Even I would say doing what's right regardless of what it costs, right? So as Nick said, to be a good leader, you have to serve the mission, right? And you have to put your men above yourself. So at the end of the day, if you work long hours, if you have to, do tasks that might be uncomfortable or whatever else, it doesn't matter because there is something higher than you, something that's right that you're working for, right? If you're working for your company, the end of the day, the company has a goal, has a mission that they're trying to accomplish, and you as a leadership or in a leadership position, you're helping them accomplish that goal. And I would say the reason most people don't get into a leadership position is because they're very self-centered. It's all about me. It's not about anybody else. One thing that I constantly tell people that are getting into leadership is, you have to respect the little guy, right? The ones going out doing the work every single day. It might seem menial, it might seem repetitive or whatever else, but they're the blood of the company. They're the ones that are doing a lot of the work. We as managers, it's what the title says, right? We're managing. We're just making sure that they're staying on task and doing what they need to do. And hopefully providing a little bit of inspiration and motivation and helping them keep focused on what the mission is. So, John Maxwell, I believe it was, actually has a very good quote. It says something along the lines of a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. So the responsibility is much higher, but with that responsibility comes better
Don't
pay.
say it.
Yeah. All thinking it, right? Spider-Man quote.
Don't say it.
Poor uncle was there dying. And he says, with great responsibility, what is it? With great responsibility comes
With great power.
with great
Yeah.
power comes great responsibility. And that's actually very true. If you want to have power, not only in your own life, but in your community and in your work, you have to be willing to take on more responsibility. And it may go unnoticed, unappreciated. It may do whatever else, but at the end of the day, as Heron said, it's what's right. And you're doing it regardless of the things, right? You're doing it because it has to get done. And this is what's going to continue to help move forward with the mission.
All right. Yes. Now, how would courage tie into that?
I've got stuff because I like to talk, but
You don't say.
Heron, Nick, you got anything on what you
Well,
think?
sometimes, you have to have the courage in order to do the right thing, like let's say, for instance, someone's, getting aggressive with someone else, and you're like, well, wait a second here, it's kind of hard to explain, but you want to like find out more about the situation, but you don't because it's not necessarily your business. But you want to make sure that everyone's all right. And sometimes you need to kind of take that courage and step up and be the leader and be like, hey, look, is there something I can help you out with? And maybe they'll both tell you to F off, in which case, okay, sure. But, you tried to make sure, something was, done about it, like sometimes you just need courage sometimes in order to like do the right thing.
All right. Good. That kind of ties into this question I have for both of you. When's the last time you made a decision that scared you a little?
That's a good one. Does getting married count?
That's horrifying.
Terrifying decision. Yeah.
All right. So,
but yeah, I was gonna say I don't regret it at all. You know what I'm saying? It's probably one of the better decisions I've made in my life. But again, sometimes you had to step up and take charge of your life. In which case, like, hey, look, I really like this woman, and I asked her to marry me, and she did. And hey, we're 3 years now, so.
Excellent. Not bad.
Congrats.
What about you, B?
Yeah,
thank you.
I second that. I'm married now. Ignore that I'm not wearing my ring.
Oh, I'm telling Jordan.
But marriage, having kids, moving companies, moving states. In my line of work, there is certain situations that come up that somebody has to make a decision quickly, and in a very short period of time, you have to assess your risks and take the courage to make the decision and know that whatever the outcomes are going to be, you're going to accept them, right? Whether good, bad, or indifferent, higher ups are going to come back questioning, and you have to take the courage to go, look, this is where I did well, this is where I messed up, this is how I learned, and this is how I'm going to do better moving forward.
Right.
Just recently, I've had audit situations, and they come, they check everything, and not to give too much detail, but they found a discrepancy, and very quickly I had to try to come up with something on the fly as to, something to keep them satisfied, but also solve the issue right away. Now, it could have not worked, in which case it could have cost me, some findings and some other issues to come up, but it worked out. But I mean, I think the quote is something like courage is acting in the face of fear, like regardless of your fear, something along those lines. So that's my 2 cents on the courageous part of leadership.
All right. And those are like the next three main areas that I would say is self-mastery, service, and courage. And we've touched a little bit on each one of these. But with self-mastery, which ties into the initial, you gotta lead yourself first. It says discipline, emotional control, and clarity. How would you explain emotional control to somebody? Does that mean like if you don't have emotional control, you just like going crazy, get angry with everything, or cry about everything? What does that mean to have emotional control?
I would say emotional control is if you're dealing in a situation that may get you angry, sad, afraid, whatever it is, to be able to keep your emotions in check and again logically try to weigh out pros and cons and make a decision. Right? So if you can't let your emotions control whatever your outcome is going to be. I've never been in part of the military, but I know a lot of service members, and they all say the same. It's like, there is times where you're in a firefight or something is going on, and obviously you're racked with fear, right? You don't want to die, you don't want to do anything, but you have to keep that in check and continue to move forward in the smartest way possible to keep you safe and to accomplish your mission.
All right. So stoicism.
Yes, I really like stoicism, but yes, it's a little too emotionally dead for me. Marcus Aurelius was a wonderful man, but he would be a horrible boss to have. I heard a great quote that's like, you wouldn't want to have Marcus Aurelius as your boss because he expects you to do the right thing at all times, and he's not going to thank you for doing the right thing because your job to do the right thing. So like, you did the right thing. Good job. Get back to work.
All right. So yeah, controlling your. Would you say that you are a pretty good? You have your emotions under control in tough situations for both of you.
Well, I actually have a story here, and again, none of us I'm assuming none of us has really been in a gunfight or anything like that. But I have been in an emergency situation within a couple years ago. I had a neighbor who had asked me to help them cut down a tree, and of course, some of them were easy, and some of them were rotten. But point being, there was a probably about like a 20-foot dead hollow tree, and we tied a rope to the top of it, and I was holding the rope, and I was supposed to be pulling it in an opposite direction, and the neighbor was chainsawing at the bottom. Well, he chainsawed it, and the bottom went off, and I started pulling it, and it started to get stuck in another tree, and then the wind just took it, and he started running the other way, and the top tree actually got him what looked like on the head. And of course, for a split second, I was like, oh my God, did I just witness my neighbor die as he's lying on the ground? But what I did was I, ran up to him and I made see if he was responsive. Because if not, that was the first thing I would have to do is be like, hey, look, I need to call 911. And the next thing is like, is he in pain? But it's stuff like that where you can't like overreact, because if you do, you what would have happened if I would have just ran away? Like, oh my God, I just saw someone die. No, you need to do the right thing, and the right thing would be, hey, check to see if they're responsive. I mean, I'm not a paramedic or anything, but you know, put your emotions away for a side, and make sure this person's all right. You know, and that was definitely a scary situation for me that I've been in recently. So,
That's
but
awesome.
yeah, he was all right. He just got a little bruised. It ended up hitting him just in the shoulder, not the head. So,
That's a scary situation to be in.
Yeah.
yep.
Pretty good. Do you think most people would have run away?
I don't know. I mean, they would have definitely like freaked out for a second and been like, "Oh, what do I do?" But I looked at it for a second and it kind of freaked me out. But I'm like, "Hey, look, the first thing I need to do is check, see, are their eyes open? Can they speak? Are they in pain?" And then I will go from there. Obviously they couldn't speak. Would have been like, "Hey, look, I need to get my phone and call 911." But yeah, I think it's possible someone would have ran away. But again, I don't know because I haven't really seen others in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think people who aren't in control of their emotions might get surprised at themselves in extreme situations, and they don't even expect them to react in the ways that they thought they would. Um, and as the Order of Pillars, what it's all about, right? It's about becoming better. It's becoming stronger in these different areas. Which, by the way, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, go and join the Order of Pillars. It's a school community. We have free enrollment right now, but that will be changing in the near future. And we hope to continue to provide an abundance of value. And we hope to see you in the community. But um, on your story, I actually was thinking of something that happened to me probably about 4 months ago or so. I was in a restaurant and I was eating with my family, and the rooms were divvied off, and somebody from the adjacent room comes into our corridor area and is like, "Does anybody know CPR? Somebody is choking." And everybody just kind of looks at each other, but nobody says anything, nobody does anything. And I'm one of those people kind of looking around, kind of expecting somebody else to jump in to do something. And then I notice nobody is doing anything. So it's like, oh, okay, well, let me go ahead and see what's going on. So I jump up and I go and I check, and there is this woman who is choking. There is a man behind her, literally just standing there, not trying to do the Heimlich, nothing. He's just standing there. Everybody is freaking out, staring at this woman as she's choking and she has no air. So I have to physically push the guy that's behind her out of the way. Wasn't a family member or anything, just one of the patrons in the restaurant that decided to stand up behind her. So I had to push him out of the way, and then I grabbed her. I started performing the Heimlich. Did it a few times. Nothing was continuing to go on. Family was crying. I continued to do it harder and harder. Finally, she coughed it up. She was able to breathe again, and her family, in a sigh of relief, crying, were saying thank you, doing this and that. Um, and then I just kind of like made sure she was okay, gave her a hug, make sure everything's fine. And then I walked back and I continued to eat my meal. But the the most troubling part, like I said, is how people reacted in that situation. That nobody either knew how to or had the courage to act. Um, like I said, whether you fail or you succeed, just doing something is better than nothing. And unfortunately, I think in very high stress situations, people kind of just lock up and they turn into passive observers or possibly victims, and that's something that I never want to be in, and I hope that everybody in the community wants to strive to be able to react in the best possible way during those kind of situations.
But would you say that's more of an innate response, like nature versus nurture? Do you learn how to respond that way, or it's just that's the person's innate personality?
That's a good question. You don't have very many of those. No, I think it is on some level a natural drive of somebody who put it in a way, who has a victim mentality versus who chooses not to have a victim mentality. Obviously, nobody's born knowing how to perform CPR or the Heimlich or first aid or anything else. But in seeing your deficiency, you want to learn how to overcome that deficiency. So I personally have taken several CPR courses. I've always think about situations that could happen and how I would react in that situation. But I definitely know people who choose not to learn anything like that, and they kind of think like, oh, well, if something like that happens, like I'll just know what to do without ever putting themselves in that situation or just trying to learn. So I mean, on some level, I would say, yeah, it probably is something that's embedded deep inside of us, right? Something that's innate.
Yeah, I guess so. But I'm sure the more exposure you have to these situations, the more desensitized you are, and you can react faster. Because you've already been in those situations. I'm sure you can, on some level, you can learn how to be reactive, right? All right, now as far as service, leadership as stewardship, not ego. Example, Christ washing feet or a soldier carrying his wounded. And when did you last put someone else's needs above yours?
Aaron, you got anything on this one?
Um, well, I mean, definitely, so for instance, my assistant manager called me probably about like a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Hey, look, I can't get anyone else to come in, and I can't be at the store by myself." And I'm like, you know what, it's my day off, but in order for me to make things work, I'm like, you know what, I just got to sacrifice my day off and go in and make sure they're not there by themselves. So, and sometimes that's needed, just to show that you do actually care, you know. But that would be my kind of example.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree. Putting others above your own interest is something that, as a leader, is needed. Um, as your example says, Christ washing feet. He first went and washed feet before he ever asked anybody else to do so. He humbled himself. Um, as a manager, there's been plenty of times where maybe I had something planned with the family, or I'm out at dinner and somebody calls me up, or a situation happens, and look, I've got to drop everything and I got to go and take care of this because I'm the leader, right? I'm the one responsible at the end of the day. And, um, it's doing what's best for others, right? If they need some time off and I need to take up a shift, I'll go ahead and I need to do so they can enjoy themselves a little bit better. Um, a great book actually that I took out for this is Driven to Delight. It's an excellent book if anybody is interested in reading it. It's about the CEO for Mercedes Benz coming out and changing the structure of Mercedes Benz and focusing more on the customer experience versus the luxury objects or cars, the cars that they were doing at the time and how they interacted with that point. Um, Excellent book, like I said, if anybody is interested. But the CEO, I believe, was Steve Cannon. And like I said, if you read the book, he has great philosophy and insight on putting others above the product that you're selling or yourself and giving them the best possible experience. And that's what's going to make them want to interact with you more and give you that loyalty that a lot of people are searching for today. And as a manager, like I said, if you've got to drop everything you're doing, if you have to answer your phone in the middle of the night, whatever else, to know that somebody is there and they're going to be there for you to answer questions, to help you out or whatever, that hopefully pays you back in a type of loyalty and respect and consistency that money can't buy.
Right. And well, that ties back to courage, doing what's right when it costs you. Okay, so a confrontation, I think Karen mentioned something like that earlier, and truth telling, risk. So where are you avoiding a hard decision right now?
Hmm. I can't even think of one right now. Avoiding a hard decision. Coming up with an answer right now. That's kind of where I'm avoiding the hard decision.
That was Inception.
I like that. I like that. Well, I haven't heard much from you, Nick. So
I'm asking questions here. I'm gathering information.
I know you have had your own company. You've lived in different countries. You've had many different hardships in your life. So I would be curious on your 2 cents on this.
On that one question, where am I avoiding hard decisions right now?
Well, the service and the courage aspect, I would say.
The service. Well, I don't know if I'm right to think this way, but in my mind, I think if I can experience moments of happiness, that is awesome, but I'm not entitled to that. So in my mind, I'm not supposed to be happy in my life. I'm supposed to fulfill my duty. I'm supposed to provide for my family. I'm supposed to be a role model. I'm supposed to do what I have to do, not be happy. If I am blessed with certain moments of happiness, that's a win. But it's not something that should be mandatory in my life. But I would say that's the service that I would put in my life. I am the least important in my with compared to everybody in my life, if that makes any sense. And where am I avoiding hard decisions right now? I think it's the same for me personally. It's the same hard decision I've had my whole life, well, my whole adult life, trying to find a proper work-life balance. I seem to be kind of a workaholic, and I fear neglecting my kids sometimes. Maybe I should give them more time for my family, even more time for myself. But it's hard for me to decide where that line is.
Yeah, no, I would agree. If I had to, um, one second. Oh, no, playing around with this real quick, and I shouldn't have done that. Nikki, can you unmute Heron?
Did you mute him?
I did.
Let me see. Right there. Should be working.
It's okay. I'll be quiet.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just clicking around like a simpleton. For me in particular, where am I avoiding a hard decision right now? I would probably say in line with what you were saying, Nick. In a proper balance. So I mean, I'm trying to juggle a lot of different things, and to find the right balance and actually take time to sit down and say, okay, I need to dedicate a set amount of time towards this one particular task and take time away from another task. Um, I'm failing to do that. And it could be from fear, it could be from various things. One of the things that I'm going to be taking care of here in the next week, 2 weeks, like that. I have my Spartan race. So I've been really focused on exercise. My diet has been complete garbage for this last little bit, but yeah, right. It's not good, but I have been exercising. I have been doing, but in that, it's taken more time than I would like it to be. I need to give more time to my wife so that she can get time away from those kids. I need to sit and properly put systems in place for various things that, again, have been taken away due to how much time I'm putting towards this race. And the race is a big deal to me. It's a 21K and then a 10K. So I mean, it's an obstacle course, right? It's not a small thing, but it's also not the highest priority that it should be for me. So I mean, I would probably say that for myself.
But you're doing it for yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
But okay, but that's valid, right? I mean, it's not like have many things in your life that are for yourself. You sacrifice a lot for everybody else. So
Yeah.
wouldn't you say it's valid to have like this one thing that's for you?
Yeah, and for my justification, I would say that's why I'm so heavily focused on it, right? This is a big accomplishment for myself. If you can see right here, I've completed the 5K for the Spartan race, and one of my big accomplishments for this year was to do the other 3 races. So I have completed all 3 races. I have other ones which I've done, gotten married, have a few other things that I've been working on and I've accomplished. So I mean, I've gotten ahead, but like you said, a lot of it is focused on others. But this one is 100% me. It's a self challenge to see if I can overcome my emotions, the physical aspect for it, the mental fortitude that's needed to do all these races, and the physical breakdown of it. But even in that, I mean, I try to think that the reason I'm doing it is because I want to be very physically capable for my family if something were to ever come up. Right? I want to be healthier. I want to be stronger. I want to be able to carry a loved one, in the event of a fire or whatever else. So it's for me, but as men, it's never really 100% for you, is it? It's always for somebody else. Nick, you mentioned before about your happiness, right? It's not You're not entitled to happiness. Um, which I was curious. Have you ever read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius?
I don't think so. I might have read like certain quotes or sentences here or there, but not like I've never read like the full thing.
I just find it interesting because that is a strong through line in that book where he basically says, like, look, at the end of the day, if if you do stuff and you're happy, like as a byproduct, cool. But you have things to do, and you got to get them done whether you're happy or you're not. And anybody who doesn't know anything about Marcus Aurelius, he was Caesar of Rome. He was the ruler of Rome. He owned giant swaths of the known world at the time. The man had literally everything at his fingertips, and he constantly focused on the betterment of everybody else at his own cost. Um, and the book Meditations actually is interesting because it was never meant to be published. It was a journal to himself. And everything that he had, the one thing that he was lacking was, I guess, like a friendship, somebody to confide in, right? Like if you're the ruler of Rome, who the hell are you going to talk to relate anything to? And really nobody. So the guy was talking to himself the whole time. But I thought it was very interesting that you brought that up. And um, like I said, it is a very deep idea that we as men should have.
Exactly. Now, let's see if we can like, wrap it with this last question that I have for you because I love asking questions. Have you ever had a time in your life, and of course this is for both of you, have you ever had a time in your life where you have stopped expecting more from yourself?
Hmm. That's a tough one. Um, the only reason why I would say no is because there's always something, there's always something to be better at. You know what I'm saying? Like there's always progression and learning. So I don't know. I know I have definitely slacked, and it's like I should be doing better, but to be honest, it's like, maybe, I yeah, that's a super tough one.
I'm sorry, I was a little distracted. I heard my baby coughing in the background, and I was wondering if she was choking or not. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Have you ever stopped expecting more from yourself?
So I have a saying that's constantly, it's just do better, right? That's my like motto to myself. Um, I hold myself to a high standard, so it's one of those things that even when I've done really well, I look back and think, how could I have done better? How can I continue to advance and to move forward? Um, but as we've talked about before, at a certain point, everything resets itself and you don't become happier even when you accomplish what you originally set out to accomplish. Um, I think a healthy thing is to pull back and and be content with where you're at currently instead of looking ahead and thinking how can I get to the next level. So while I haven't really sat and stopped expecting more out of myself, there have been glimmers of time. And a quick story, real quick. Years ago, um, because I was living with you, but I lived in South America for a while, and we went through hardships, robbed at gunpoint, all the other nonsense. Good time.
Good times.
But in that, I came back to the States, and one day I was very stressed and tired from working incredible amounts of hours at my job, and I decided to reward myself a little. So I sat on my back porch and I was sipping a little bit of whiskey. I was having a cigar and I was looking out, and uh, could have been the alcohol, could have been various issues, but I was basically being very self, you know, like reflective. And I was thinking about what I've experienced before and just how blessed I was to have a roof over my head, to have electricity, to have running water, to have food in the fridge, to have a nice back porch that I can come out and sit on and enjoy a cigar. Um, and it's interesting because even when I was incredibly stressed and dealing with a lot at the time, just that little bit of pause and reflection gave me so much peace, and appreciation for everything that I had. And it really kind of recharged my batteries to be able to turn back around and continue the grind, right? So I think that's something that we all should do, is probably not put so much emphasis on our success, but look back and be content and know that a younger version of ourselves would be proud, hopefully, would be proud of ourselves of where we are today.
Right.
Exactly. All right. Now, it's interesting that you guys both it was hard for you to find a time where you didn't expect more from yourself, which means you guys are ambitious, or self improvement is important for you guys, which ties into the fact that you're in managerial roles, right? So I don't think you would be able to be in the positions you are in if you didn't have that type of personality trait where self improvement and you're always expecting more of yourself. But would you attribute that same aspect to most men out there?
I
No.
would want to, but you never know. Some of the people that are coming about nowadays, it's like, why do you think like that? So I personally, I want to say no. But hey, I could be wrong.
Yeah, my initial reaction would be no. I have traveled. I have worked in many different states. I've met many different people, and I find that most I'll stick to men in particular because I don't want to be called a sexist and everything. Most men don't strive for more. They don't expect more out of themselves. They have a very entitled mindset. Um, and they look around and think, others need to give me more. I deserve X, Y, and Z. Um, and a common thing that is said from lower level people, not to be disparaging, but when asked to do another task, something that is a little bit more responsibility, their initial reaction is, that's not my job. You don't pay me for that. Why should I have to do that, etc. And I don't know exactly what it is. If I had to guess, it's something along the lines of the saying, hard times create good men or whatnot. Good men create easy times create hard men, etc., etc. I think we are in the stage where we've lived such luxurious lives, so comforted and coddled in everything that we do. I mean, the fact that we're talking on the internet from different parts of the world, and that we have electricity, that we have jobs, all these kinds of things, like we're incredibly soft, historically speaking. So I think it's a rare mentality for somebody to go like, well, no, I need to make my life a little harder, right? I need to take more responsibility. Um, One thing that I say all the time that I get from Dave Ramsey, shout out to that man if you want to watch this stream and comment or something. But when asked, how are you doing? He said, I'm doing better than I deserve. And that's something that really stuck with me. And I always say, because it helps keep me back in check of, you're doing amazing, right? Like you I don't even know if you deserve to be doing as good as you're doing, because you're not working that hard. So do better.
Are you talking to me?
No, well, yes.
All right. Yeah. No, I concur. Now the challenge, and reiterating what you said a little bit earlier, if you haven't subscribed, you better subscribe up top. If you've made it this far and you've been listening to us ramble on for an hour, well, congratulations, you're one of us. One of us.
Whoa.
Go to the community. Go to the community, sign up. We're going to be doing this every single Friday. And there is a challenge, the mirror challenge. Right? So the mirror test, leadership challenge. Tonight, when it's quiet and no one's watching, turn off the laptop, put the lotion down, and stand in front of the mirror. All right. This goes for more than one of you. I know more than one of you have another tab open when you're watching this. Look at yourself in the eye and ask one question. Would I follow me? Not the version you show the world, not the excuses, the talk, or the potential, the real you, the one who leads your home, your habits, your thoughts. If the answer is yes, prove it this week. If the answer is no, fix it. So take one action in the next 7 days that earns your own respect. Because leadership doesn't start with others, it starts with the man in the mirror. So if you're bold enough to comment down under this YouTube video, comment what you feel you could improve. By all means, do that. And if you're watching this in the community, type it in the comments. I want to know, what is it that you feel you could improve, and maybe why haven't you yet? I don't know if you want to add anything to close, Little B or Heron.
I would just say, you know, at the end of the day, the hardest person that you'll ever lead is that man in the mirror, right? You should have higher expectations for yourself than anybody else has for you. And in that, you will surpass everybody's expectations. So, you know, be honest with yourself, right? Look in the mirrors, ask yourself, like you said, you know, would I follow me? Where did I fall short today? How could I have done better? And this isn't a punishment type deal, right? Don't get hard on yourself or whatever else, but be honest. And wherever you feel that that shortfall has come, good for you. That is something that most men has never done. Accept it, figure out how you can overcome it, and do better tomorrow.
All right. One of the other things that I have noticed along, the lines of my leadership is, a good leader knows when to lead and when to follow. Because the thing is, you're not always going to be able to lead. And you do need to, even as the main leader, you need to be able to take in other ideas as well. It can't just be just your way, because guess what? You will be wrong, and that's part of the process. But if you can take in other information as well from other people to help make a better guided decision, it does help. And that's kind of something I've noticed. So,
Very nice. Words of wisdom,
Yeah.
making Confucius jealous. But very good. Well, guys, if you've made it this far, again, congratulations. And we're going to wrap it up here because I'm sure you don't want to continue hearing us talk. So tune in and we'll see you next week. Peace.
see ya.